Hey guys, my name is Shirish. So the other day I was watching Realme's camera innovation event and I watched it live with some of you guys. And there's some stuff that I felt I need to talk about. So yeah, this video is basically a recap video for the Realme's camera innovation event. So yeah, let's talk about it. So I mostly shoot my videos on the camera that's actually recording this video right now, which is the Sony a6300. It is a mirrorless camera. But when it comes to photos, I don't really carry it everywhere I go. I mean, there are times when I just simply cannot really carry it. And during those times, I use my smartphone, especially when I don't really need that depth of field or when I don't really need extremely good low light performance. If there's enough light and if I don't really want to capture some bokeh, I'll probably use my phone to capture, because mostly in run and gun situations, I don't really have my camera available or accessible. Now, when it comes to smartphone photography, there are just two things that I've had a major problem with over the years. First one is the low light performance and second one is the clarity and sharpness. Now, out of the box, the images are fairly clear. They have, ample amount of details, but when you zoom in into most of these pictures, pixelation happens and the images, they don't really look that good. Now, when you can say that, why do you need to zoom in into a picture? Well, the thing is, oftentimes we are put in a position where we can't really get the composition right on our smartphones. So generally when it comes to DSLRs or mirrorless camera, people actually fix the composition or framing in post by cropping in the image a little bit and making some adjustments to the image overall. Now, if you go on to do this on your smartphone images, then it is going to result in a lot of loss of details, and that obviously isn't nice. Now, over the years, this particular aspect of a smartphone has improved quite a lot with the introduction of 64 megapixel camera sensors. Now, yes, megapixels aren't everything. Yes, I agree to that. But when it comes to sharpness, when it comes to zooming in, these extra megapixels, they do definitely play a very important role. So, as coming to Realme's camera innovation event, Realme unveiled a 108 megapixel Samsung HM2 sensor. Now, what does that mean? Now, firstly, the biggest advantage of having a higher megapixel count on your camera sensor is that you will be able to crop in the photos a little bit more than usual. And this also means just the issue that I spoke to you about. If you have to fix the composition or framing in post, well, you can do that by zooming in and cropping and adjusting the perspective and all that sort of stuff. The lack of details will be there, of course, but it won't really be as much as compared to a standard 12 megapixel or even 48 megapixel camera sensor, or even 64 to be honest. Apart from that, the Samsung HM2 is a fairly large sensor, which means that more light can enter the sensor, and that means that better low light photos. Now, when it comes to these smartphone camera sensors, especially these higher megapixel count sensors, what essentially happens is there are a lot of megapixels cramped onto a very tiny space. Now, that means that the individual size of a pixel is fairly small. Now, when it comes to low light performance, you obviously need more light to enter individual pixels. But the problem here is that the individual pixels, they are very tiny. More light cannot really grasp a lot of light, basically. That's the case. Now, to fix this, we have pixel binning. Now, pixel binning has been there for a while. Now, the same thing goes with the Samsung HM2 sensor as well. It will basically combine 9 individual pixels into one, which means that there will be a bigger pixel and that can actually grasp a lot of light. Now, that's how pixel binning generally works. So yes, hopefully, most probably, the low light performance on the Samsung HM2 sensor as well, it is going to be quite nice. Apart from that, Realme actually introduced some interesting features. First one on the list, we have the improved Starry Mode. Now, the first generation of Starry Mode was already quite impressive. What it used to do was basically brighten up the stars in the image, which used to give this very professional looking image. Now, in the event, Realme launched the second generation of the Starry Mode. Now, basically on the first gen Starry Mode, the process was entirely software based. But basically with the second gen Starry Mode, the process of brightening the stars in the image, it has been shifted to the ISP which sits on the SoC. So now the process is not entirely software or algorithm based, which means that the images are going to be even better. And we did see some phenomenal images on the event as well. Now, the interesting part is that the Starry Mode is not really specific to photos only. Realme has also launched the Starry time-lapse mode. Basically, that means that you can capture 30 FPS time-lapse videos of the sky during night. And that is actually incredible. This is something that I have been wanting to try out for myself. To actually pull off something like this, you need to mess around with a lot of settings in manual mode. And even then, it is a fairly tedious job, I would say. But over here, it's just a few click process. All you need is a tripod and you just need a little bit of patience. Well, obviously, Realme has pulled this off by compiling multiple Starry Mode photos into an entire video. Then Realme has also introduced tilt shift photos. Basically, this means that you will be able to get those dreamy, animated kind of images of your city or basically whatever you're pointing your camera at. And now obviously there are a few things that you need to take care of, like you cannot really capture anything and turn it into a tilt shift photo. Like you can, but the effect won't really be that much nice, so you'll have to take care of the perspective and stuff. But yeah, apart from that, it is a fairly nice addition. If you get a perspective right, you can actually get a miniature of your city, or your basically the landscape that you're actually viewing, and it is a fairly creative style of photography. Oh yes, and also Realme does give us manual bokeh controls for this mode as well, and it doesn't just stop there. Just like the Starry time-lapse mode, we do as well have the tilt shift time-lapse mode as well. So that means you can add motion to these miniature kind of images that makes the videos actually look a little bit animated. So I mean, I'm fairly excited for this thing, because yeah, these type of time lapses are very hard to pull off in the first place, and not a lot of people actually use it. So yeah, it's a decent addition in my opinion. And lastly, we have the new portrait filters. Now these filters, they are not really your normal or average filters. They just don't affect your colors solely, they rather affect the entire dynamics of the image. For instance, there's the neon portrait feature, which basically enhances the bokeh coming from the light in the background. So if you are shooting a portrait with a lot of lights in the background, in that case, this effect can actually make your images look a lot better. It can actually add a dreamy effect that some people actually add in post by adding some artificial bokeh. But yes, over here again, it's out of the camera stuff. So yeah, fairly nice. Then there's the dynamic bokeh portrait. Now this is something I'm personally very excited for. Basically, it will give you those images with a lot of motion blur in the background. Let's say you're shooting portrait images on a very busy street, or where you have a lot of cars or bikes passing by in the background. So in that case, it can actually add motion to the background. It obviously won't really add any motion to the subject. The subject will remain very static and still, but the background will appear kind of blurred out in a very different way. It will have motion. Now, to generally replicate this particular effect, or to actually produce this sort of effect, even in cameras, you do need firstly a tripod, and secondly, you need fair amount of patience, and also you need a steady subject as well. So if the subject moves, the image, obviously it doesn't really turn out that nice. But over here, everything has been done on software level, so you can just snap in a normal portrait picture and it will have that fake motion blur in the background, and that is super impressive. And lastly, there's the AI color portrait. Now, if you have been editing photos, you might know about this color pop or color splash effect. Basically, what this means is the subject will have some colors, it will have some life in it, and the background will be entirely black and white. This helps the subject pop out in a very better way. So yeah, overall, that's how it went with Realme's camera innovation event, and you'll be able to see a lot of these features on upcoming Realme phones, like the Realme 8 series specifically. So I personally look forward to using these phones. But yeah, let me know which of these has been your favorite camera feature, or which is something that has excited you quite a lot in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.